Our mandate is to discuss and make recommendations to the board on financial, facilities, maintenance, technology, and transportation matters with a view on environmental sustainability. I'd like to thank and acknowledge that the lands on which the committee works and learns are on the shared traditional territories of the Qualicum and the Sinawas First Nations people. We have no presentations at this time. Moving down the agenda, project updates. We have none at this time, and items for discussion, there's also none there. So we're going to move right into our information items. The process for distribution of playground equipment, and Mike Sowchuk, Manager of Operations and Facility. Morning, Mike.
Good morning. Yeah, for playgrounds, next one online is Arrington. It'll be the back playground. So if we're fortunate enough to receive funding from the ministry, it seems like we're going on a 2-year cycle now. That'll be the next one in line.
Do you know how it's decided which
I'll give
schools end up getting the playgrounds, Mike?
I'll give a bit of background. Yeah, so I'll give a bit of background.
Sorry, Ron. Nope. Okay.
So it's about a $5 million program, provincial program, or has been in the past. And so what we've always said is we tend to come up every 2 years, give or take 2 or 3 years, because you think about a $5 million program serving 60 districts. At $200,000 per playground project, it's only about 25 playgrounds per year that they can service. So it means that we are lucky if we come up every second year, but oftentimes it's every third year. We just did Springwood. As Mike indicated, we put in for Arrington for the 26-27 cycle. And so we will learn actually next week. We'll get a heads up in terms of whether or not that project is approved, and then we can obviously go into the planning cycle. But again, because we got Springwood, we would hope to get it, but again, it doesn't stop us from putting in for one project every year. Correct me if I'm wrong, Phil. I think we also put in for Nanoose also as next in the cycle, and again, recognizing that this might be 5 years. A 5-year cycle, planning cycle, but certainly Arrington is first, Nanoose is second, and I believe Arrowview would be the next priority. But again, we know that this is only going to be every 2 to 3 years.
Do you know that schedule, Mike?
That is Arrington's definitely next in line, and Nanoose the front playground near the kindergarten area. Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. So I've got lots of questions. So Trustee Kurland.
The rebuild at Falls Bay School, does that include any kind of playground upgrade or anything like that? Is that part of the budget there?
I'm sure we'll try to incorporate the playground that's there. If it happens to be removed, then we will try to plan within that project to have a new playground, yes.
Great, okay. Thank you. Trustee Young.
Yeah, I thought we were going to talk about distribution of playground equipment, so I'm kind of confused what we're doing, but the playgrounds come out every couple of years. Maybe we get a playground, maybe we don't. That's all for the ministry, and the budget is happening today. So I guess we'll find out where the constraints are. But the other part of this is I just wanted to ask the playground at Springwood. I know there was a total cost to it, and I know that a whole bunch of community and other funds were put into that playground. Do we have any idea how much the district might have to put into a playground if only $200,000 comes our way?
Great question.
We plan the projects whatever funds we receive. We would go to our provider, say we have a certain budget, and then they give us usually 3 options that we can pick from. Springwood, obviously, the PAC was quite involved, and they had funds to contribute. Plus, we had some other grants. So, yeah, initial ministry funding is put out. We usually get 3 options, and then if there's additional funding to get extra pieces or the rubber at Springwood, then we would plan accordingly from there.
Great, thank you. Dr. Jory.
We're doing not a bad job of ham and egging it here. The intention, I think, was to have Phil speak a little more broadly to the process, and this comes from a DPAC question around how do we, help our school PACs initiate this process, and what does that look like? And he was going to give a bit of an overview and coach them a little bit around how to facilitate this in the best way possible. I mean, to Mr. Amos's point, money only comes our way when it comes our way. It's 2, maybe 3 years. But there's a bunch of other kind of pieces that help move this forward. I can tell you they're fairly standard things that come up. One of them is everybody being shocked about the timeline. It's always a little longer than you think it's going to be. And the second piece is the ground or the site preparation always ends up being more daunting than one would expect. And this isn't, I think these standards have all increased in the last 5 to 10 years, but I can go back to my kids being in elementary school in Chilliwack and my wife being on the PAC there and be coming home shocked at how long it took and how much it cost. And so this has been going on a long time. It's nice to know these things before you head down that path. And it's nice to know that there are some things that will, if you know them in advance, that will help. And Phil's endeavoring to share that, just not today. He's got a medical appointment this morning.
Thank you. I have a question from Jason Howard, and that is, do we use the same provider? And if we do, who is that?
The last couple we have been using Blue Imp.
Blue Whip?
Blue Imp.
Oh, okay.
IMP.
Yeah. Thanks. All right. Seeing no further questions. Oh, Franny. Oh. Can you repeat?
Yeah.
Just hang on here.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, so as best I know, Arrington is first. So Arrington has gone through in the 26-27 request. So we will learn if Arrington is approved, but its first priority, I believe Nanoose, the metal structure, is second priority, and then Arrowview also has a metal structure that will be priority 3, as it were, recognizing that some of these might be 5 years out, but as operations sort of looks at the priorities and the age of some of these structures, they're the ones that are prioritized, wood and metal ones.
Great. Thank you. Trustee Austin, you had your hand up?
I did. I don't know where it went. I just want to go back to the question about, the providers. And Mike mentioned Blue Imp, but then Eve said that there's a number of providers. So we're not tied to anybody. There could be different providers. Is that right? Can we just clarify all that?
There could be, yes.
Great. Trustee Kurland.
And just
Mike.
a little bit, yeah. Well, I'm just going to put a bit of background to that also. I think these are what tends to happen is we tend to develop obviously a relationship with a provider, not to say that there aren't other providers that put in, because oftentimes it's typical of any kind of equipment we buy. If we can commonize the provider, then obviously replacements are easy to deal with, but we do give opportunity to all local and Canadian, as it were, suppliers would be the priority.
Great. Trustee Kurland.
So just out of curiosity, what's a metal structure? Is that like a monkey bars or something like that? Or, what does that mean, metal structure?
Personally, I think of the one that's at Qualicum Commons. There's an old metal structure there, Parksville Elementary, old Parksville Elementary, has an old
Please.
metal structure there that needs to be, and I believe is slated for removal if it isn't already.
It has.
We have,
been.
yeah,
What's that, Mike?
Craig Street has been removed, yes, in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But so
truck-
what are they, like jungle gyms, monkey bars, that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
essentially all the new playgrounds are a metal structure, the entire
Okay.
frame or assembly of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Trustee Young.
Okay, so to the question about do we use the same provider? We have policy on this. It's policy 101, purchase and disposal of assets. So that gives you a sense of when we go to tender, when we don't go to tender, under what conditions and so on. So it's like any company, any business, larger projects, we go to tender on. So I just wanted people to be aware of that.
Great. Thank you. No further questions that I can see, so we're going to move on. Budget development, and that's you, Secretary Treasurer Amos.
If it wasn't said already, and I appreciate Mike being here to carry the load that Phil would have carried. Phil has, I won't say health issues, but anyways, he's sick today, so he couldn't make it, which is why thankfully Mike is stepping in. And otherwise, we might have had more of a fulsome conversation in terms of the playground equipment and the lens of PACs and how they can contribute to have that conversation. I think it's a fairly free conversation once these things are articulated from O&M in terms of once the project gets the green light. Certainly, there's going to be conversation, much like what they had with Springwood in terms and the PAC contributions of how they can contribute and how they can be invested in the project also. So that's always ongoing. Phil and Mike are open to that anyways, recognizing that the PAC sometimes needs a couple of years. And I think from the perspective of if they know that they're coming up in a couple of years and they can make plans around the fundraising that could be done to support it. Okay.
Yeah.
So budget started, the public portion of the budget conversation started last week. We had a couple of, we had one stakeholder, we had one public meeting at the night. For those who couldn't make it, it was taped and it is on our website. We spoke at that time about the survey, and I indicated that I'd give kind of the preliminary of what we've heard so far today, and that we will kind of follow up over the course of the budget season. But just to give you a sense, we've heard from 48 individuals, 48 mostly parents and caregivers, completed the survey as of this morning. Some of the key themes, some positive themes, staff dedication, family frequently praised teachers, EAs, and support staff for their caring and committed work. Outdoor and experiential learning, for example, parents value outdoor education, trade exposure, and hands-on learning. And then the strong engagement of PAC was very appreciative in terms of the fundraising, the events, and the community building efforts, and appreciated the work of DPAC in disseminating the information to the PACs. Some of the wonders, though, more, and this is a common theme, more in-class support needed, strong need for more educational assistance and classroom supports. Support for students with special needs, concerns over access to SLP, our speech and language pathologists, our OT, our occupational therapists, counseling and access to assessments. And then likewise, just more transparency in terms of clear information about the district spending. And again, this just gets back to folks having access to the financial statements, the budgets, and the conversations that are occurring in finance and ops, in the budget themes, etc. So that's sort of, again, it's only a week old, as it were. The survey is only a week old. So please, folks, we've got Deepak here, so remind your parents and caregivers to fill out the survey if you can. I look at Tom and CUPE members, and I don't see Matt, but if Matt is here, again, we want to hear from everybody, all stakeholders, all partners in education. So we will keep it open for the course of the budget deliberations right up until May. And like I said, I'll do a periodic report out of the common themes that we're hearing, and so that we can embed that into our budget conversations.
Great, thank you. Trustee Young.
Yes, as I set my priorities and think about budgets, and I am assuming we're going to have some constraints. Was there any feedback with regard to retaining fine arts and applied skills at the elementary level? And was there any feedback with regard to food programs?
Is
Likely
that for you,
so.
Ron?
Probably is likely so, but I don't think you do hear it. Obviously, they're appreciative of the food programs. They're appreciative of it, just as a positive development. And again, this is work that's kind of outside our ability to fund it, because luckily we've got 2 programs that are supporting, or 2 funding levels that are supporting it. It's appreciative, I think, is really the messaging, and you'll probably hear more of that, obviously, from your working group. What was your second one? Oh, the fine arts. Nothing directly tied to the fine arts and that kind of stuff. Experiential learning, hands-on learning opportunities, but nothing directly attributed to the type of programs in that area.
Good. Thank you, Ron. Trustee Kurland.
I just think it's nicely quaint when you say something being taped, Ron.
I guess that, yeah, we got our cassette tape out for that one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I pressed the recorder on my tape recorder.
Yeah, thank you very much. Tom from CUPE, VP.
Hi everyone. I love to hear that the feedback has been with more in-classroom supports. The last few education committee meetings that I've been lucky enough to attend, we've had presentations about in-classroom support and library spaces and educational assistance and all those things. And yes, we have sent the budget survey link out to our membership. So I'm hoping we'll be able to get significantly more surveys back to the board on this. And then I'm going to make a pitch for the maintenance department. This morning we were unlucky enough to have a little snow, and me personally going out with salting our sites, one of our trucks is broken down, and when that's half of our salting fleet. And so when that happens, I'm physically out there salting parking lots by hand with a 5-gallon bucket and a little cup. So if there's money for maintenance, please, we need it. Thank you.
That's great.
Yes, I appreciate that, Tom. And this goes to the conversations we had about white fleet replacement and the need to sort of replenish our white fleet on a periodic basis. The truck and its spreader attachment needs servicing clearly, and if we can find funds to update those areas, that would be a good thing.
We had one question in the chat, and it was from Rani, and she was curious if trustees are given the raw data from surveys. And in the past, Rani, we have been given information off the surveys. So rest assured, we see the surveys. Do I see any further hands? I do not. So we're going to move on again. Mr. Amos to we've done the budget survey. You
Yep.
did the preliminary. Now we're on to the 3-year enrollment estimates.
Yes. So I talked about this last week at the budget report outs in terms of our wonders of the enrollment. It's the first thing that we send off to the ministry to guide the funding component. And so looking at, and I also talked about the fact that we do our second count in the next week, last week and this week, to give us a lens to what the numbers are looking like. And so clearly we do have more kids than we haven't had in the system as September. That's a positive thing. I think we're up about 48 kids. And so we hope that trend continues for September, but it did cause us to downgrade our projection a little bit just to accommodate the fact that we're not bursting at the seams with new families coming into the system. So as you can see by that attachment, and forgive me for the size of it, but just focusing your eyes on the 26-27 column, we're projecting slightly less than 100 decline in FTE. As indicated there, and then you can see that the decline is less the following year and then less the year thereafter. We put it in for 3 years. In the past, the ministry estimates have been quite conservative. This time we're actually saying they're actually fairly close. They cast it out based on, they've got some local knowledge. But clearly they're looking at it from the provincial picture and our contributions in the past in terms of how our enrollment and how our cohorts are structured across the grade groupings. We talked last week that we have a very large grad class. I talked in that meeting about the fact that in the past our grad classes have been in the 350, 320. Well, this year's grad class is about 415. And we're estimating about 235 kids coming in. And so that's a difference of 176 that we have to cover off with new kids. And so by indicating that we've seen 40 kids coming in at this point, we anticipate that'll continue, but again, it's not going to be nearly enough to cover off that 176 net loss. So we're kind of rounding out our projection to be a decline of about 100. Yeah, recognizing that this is a very large graduating class that we've been anticipating for the last couple of years. Questions?
Trustee Young.
Yeah, so this is inclusive of international education, right? Our
No.
international.
No.
It's not. I thought I'd read that somewhere and I couldn't find it again. So, but we're also limited with international ed placements because of our homestay situation.
Yeah.
The other thing is I actually don't like that we rely on international ed for anything operational, really. But there you go. The other question I had was to do with our kindergarten numbers. I know we are projecting 235. How have the and I'm looking over at Associate Superintendent Wilson because she knows I'm going to ask this question. I know I've been getting out and I've been saying, get your kindergarten kids registered, but how are we doing?
Through the chair, we are, last time I looked, which was last week, it was about 155, which is not where we want to be. We are about to hit send this week on our pre-K transition program, which often creates a little bit of interest and people go, oh yeah, I better register, because you can't be part of the program unless you are registered in the school. That's for legal reasons. They need to be registered students. So we hope that will drive some more. This year we did something new. We went on the radio as well as the newspaper to try and get folks to register because it does help with our planning and our staffing and all those kind of things. So we're doing our bit and hopefully we'll get the rest registered soon.
Thank you. Trustee Austin.
Thanks, Ron. Can you just speak a little bit to the migration piece again? So when I look at this, there's been no students leave our district and no students come into our district, or just speak
Nope,
to
no,
migration.
absolutely.
I don't
No,
understand.
absolutely. The net migration we've talked in the past in terms of that's the infusion of kids via families into each cohort. So the expectation is that if we've got 277 kids in our grade 1 cohort in 24-25, how many more are going into that cohort for grade 2 the following year? And likewise, how the grade 3s become grade 4s. So the net migration is the number of kids that we're gaining, or at least hoping to gain, across each cohort. And obviously, we need those kids coming into the system to offset that net loss of the exiting kindergartens to the incoming kindergartens. So if we have 400 kids graduating, and I'm just using round numbers, and we only have 200 kids coming into kindergarten, we're going to naturally lose 200 kids in the single year from June to September. So the anticipation when you have that is that you're gaining enough kids at each other cohort level that will soften the decline that you're losing at that kindergarten to the graduate. So in that example, we would need 200 additional net migration into our area, into our school district, to offset that net loss, so that we at least stay static in our growth or in our enrollment. What we're generally seeing, though, the last 2 years is that we haven't been seeing the net migration that's been big enough to offset that exiting grade 12. Does that help? But yeah, but really the net migration is us sort of presenting how many kids are coming to us across all grade levels that are versus the ones that are leaving our district naturally because they're moving elsewhere.
Thank you. Trustee Kurland.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful that the projections for graduation have held up? That these kids have made it through the system and that the class is so large that is graduating that we projected. I think it's it says that there's a success in the system of all these kids are graduating.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Did you have a question?
No,
Trustee Kurland? Okay,
no, I was just yapping.
yeah. Trustee Young.
I don't know if Dr. Jory is on the previous thing. I'll defer to you, Dr. Jory, and then I've got a different question.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Trustee Young. Yeah, there's always migration in school districts. Kids move in, kids move out, and the net migration is the number that is the difference between those two. And if you remember Ron's presentations in regard to the budget, we have typically picked up across all grades. That's been typical here. And that number of additional, the net migration to the positive has been, between 20 and 80. Typically, I would say that's a pretty big range, but we also pick up kids later in primary. Not everyone goes to kindergarten, we're finding, especially in the post-COVID time. We would like everybody to go to kindergarten. We think kindergarten is a great thing, but we tend to get some kids that are maybe kept at home, homeschooled for kindergarten, grade 1, and then we get a bit of a run in that adds to our numbers a little bit there. And I think the point that everyone, we do have small inbound numbers, but I think the big thing for everybody to kind of recognize, we have some particularly large cohorts of kids at the upper end of our system right now. And so last year we had a big graduating class. This year we have the biggest ever, maybe, or not ever, but the biggest in recent history. And then we'll get a tapering over the next few years of that number down so that it will be very much closer to what's inbound, and maybe we'll even possibly go back to being in the plus in about 4 or 5 years.
Great. I just
If
But
we've
Randy
got some
has a
A
time,
question has came in on the chat. Do you mind, Trustee Young, if I take that first? Okay, this is from Randy. Ministry projections for unique student needs is higher than the district numbers. Is there a reason for that? Ms. Wilson, maybe.
Yeah, I can take that one. We actually looked at our student data. So we looked at our grade 12 cohort that's exiting, as you heard Secretary Treasurer Amherst say, it's quite a big group. And we looked at the number of students that are actually designated children in grade 12. So we looked at the real data. Often children coming into kindergarten, unless they've got a pre-designated usually in the chronic health region, our level 2, we learn about them as they become students of ours. So there's a large group exiting in grade 12 who have designations. We don't know what we don't know about our incoming kindergartens who are our smaller designations. So we made sure that we were more cautious than the ministry, perhaps, knowing the students and knowing whom they are. Hopefully
Great.
that answers the question.
Good explanation. Trustee Young.
Yeah, I have a comment first of all, and then I mean, I'm always looking for ways to increase the amounts for operating this district. I really appreciate that we budget conservatively, because trying to reorganize a school to cut staff in September is horrifying, absolutely horrifying. Whereas, and I've been through it, so believe me when I tell you that, especially in a high school, you don't want to do it in September. Adding a classroom, adding instructional time is much easier. So we budget conservatively, and I really appreciate Mr. Amos for doing that. My question, however, is kind of strategic. In the past, we've not really focused on the adult dogwood and folks who are returning to school to complete, who are now out of the school system. And that was partially, I think, because VIU in Parksville sort of said that they were taking that on, however they did that. I'm wondering if there's any potential, because I know that we have a number of young people, kind of 20 to 25-ish, that maybe we lost during COVID, maybe not, I don't know, but they might be interested in doing their adult dogwood. And I will preface this by saying we don't want our current graduates, you know, if they're like 18, to be looking at their or 19 to be looking at an adult dogwood. That's not the intent. But can we expand our enrollment in any way, shape, or form that way?
Thank you. Dr. Jory.
Yeah, we have done well here in minimizing the use of the adult dogwood. And each year I look at that quite carefully, and it's certainly something that the industry has become more interested in the last several years, making sure that it's a tool that's used appropriately for students who have missed an inordinate amount of time, and we're capturing them late in their school career and giving them an opportunity to get this credential. It's not as robust. It doesn't have as many options as the full dogwood, of course, but it is better than having no grad at all. The numbers of adult grads that we have in the district fluctuates, but typically it is statistically non-impactful to our overall grad rate. That's how I would put it. And so, and I think we should be particularly proud of the work that's going on in our alternate program, which used to be no grads or adult grads, and more students in that program are actually getting full dogwoods, and that's just fantastic work. In regard to the adult question, this isn't a lucrative endeavor if we're looking at this for revenue purposes. We do have some students that are picking up courses after the age of 18, but it's typically one at a time. And the number of students that come back to us, after the age of about 21 or 22 is negligible. Like, we do get inquiries from time to time. It's very, very rare that people have actually wanted to. And I think, in the last couple of years, the number of people who actually have completed courses over the age of 21 might be zero. Maybe it's one or two, but I mean, it's just a very tiny, tiny amount. And for post-sec to do this work, I mean, if somebody's doing it, it's not us. We were providing the service. It just there hasn't been much uptake as of late.
Great, thank you very much. Seeing no further hands, we will move. Oh, Rennie, Coast Karma is looking at implementing a tuition fee next year. Is the district in conversation with families and considering needs to have, just hang on, I gotta pull it all up. Is this conversation
Why
with
doesn't,
the
is she,
school?
she's present. Why doesn't she ask the question?
Well, I'll read this one. And consider needing to have additional supports if there's an influx.
I can speak to that through the chair if you like, Trustee Kellogg.
Yes, please.
We have had started some families inquire back to our system who left to Coast Karma not last September, the September before. So it's an individual family's decision about the tuition and whether that's something that's sustainable for them. But they are in conversation with their schools, and principals are contacting the district principal of learning when there is a student or family coming back to our system. So we can only use what we know, and we continue to plan as we get new information at each site.
Great. Thank you. Tom, VP of QB.
Thanks, Carol. This is just a general question, I guess. We're the Ministry of Education and Childcare. Why aren't we talking about childcare intakes and budgets and revenues and that sort of thing?
Sorry, I didn't catch the question. Can you just repeat it?
Oh, sorry, Ron. Why are we not talking about our childcare portion of our budgets and revenues and that sort of thing? We're just talking about the education side. Because we're adding more buildings today that we have to maintain, but there's no budget on here for that.
It comes into the conversation when we start pulling our budget together, because obviously there's a revenue side, there's a staffing side. The Qualicum Beach building won't come online until 2026, 27, I believe. And certainly in the short term, it's only staffing. To your point, though, we have to recognize that when we do have tenants in these facilities, that we have to accommodate additional costs that the tenant should be willing to bear beyond the staffing complement. When we run our own programs and they're inside our buildings, generally speaking, it's just the staffing costs that we bear. We know that it impacts staffing for custodial, so sometimes there's an additional demand on our custodial. Clearly, there's additional demand, obviously, on the responsible adults that we have within these programs, but it really only comes to when those buildings are independent. And so case in point, we had Arrowview, we put a building on there. It's being run and operated by Oceanside Building and Learning together. So they pay for the operating dollars of it. And so we have to do better. And I think this is what we're learning through Arrowview and that tenant. We have to do better in terms of making sure that the rental fees that we charge them is reflective of the actual costs, including utilities if we're the ones paying the utility, including at the end of the day the the capital needs of those buildings over time. We know that for the first 4, 5, 6 years of these new builds, we don't expect any capital needs, but there's clearly going to be after that. What some districts are starting to do is exercising a capital portion within their tenant prices to allow for those money to be put aside for later needs if it needs a roof in 10 to 15 years, if it needs new cladding in 10 to 15 years. So again, we're dipping our toe. We dipped our toe into it for AeroView. We've certainly learned some lessons from operating our school sites for tenants, and the fact that we probably weren't recovering sufficient funds to allow us to do additional capital. But again, we just have to sort of keep our eyes open going into these things so that we do pass on the appropriate costs to the tenant, bearing in mind that the ministry originally said we couldn't charge for capital, but now they've changed their regulations to allow us to be able to charge additional for these not-for-profit childcare providers.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm gonna just piggyback on that, if that's all right, Chair.
Yes.
Just to answer Tom's question, Tom, we talk about daycare actually quite often in this meeting, maybe not since you've joined us. But this is a budget conversation, and I'll consolidate Ron's comments down into one little piece. And that is the kids that come into our daycares don't get funded per pupil.
Okay.
Right, that doesn't count for this. And so when we're talking about enrollment and the $9,000 or roughly that each of these children generates, and that turns into all these complicated systems, childcare's got nothing to do with that. If a kid's in our system, their parents are paying a couple $100 per month into the system, and that is basically supposed to operate as break even, and we're endeavoring to make sure that is the case.
Okay.
So it's not an enrollment issue, and it's not really a funding issue.
Okay.
That's why it's not getting a bigger explanation today, other than what Ron just told you.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay, moving forward, energy management, capital projects, Mike Sawchuk, Manager of Operations.
You want me to hop on that, Ron, or are you happy with that one?
You can start us off if there's, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Sure, for
Mike and I
this
were
year-
sort of Mike and I were sort of going back and forth via the email that if he wasn't here. So absolutely, you can kick us off, and if there's further questions or clarity that I can expound on, I would love to. But you start us off.
So this year for CNCP, we've entered monies in for VFDs on air handler motors and also pump motors for the main heating loops. So that'll be our main focus, and hopefully, like Ron said, in the next week or two, we will be hearing from the ministry, and we'll be able to share with what funding we have for the upcoming season here. So
Great.
And and the history to this, if you recall, to bring those that haven't been again, those who haven't seen all these committees, you'll hear the name Josh Monroe. He's an energy manager that Operations is working with. I think he used to be formerly BC Hydro. He still could be, but point being, so he's an energy manager that Mike and Phil have spent some time with the last couple of years in terms of articulating what it is that we can do better to get more efficiencies within our systems. And so he's been working with Operations in what projects are worth prioritizing when it comes to our minor works, specifically our CNCP, our climate action capital plan. And so he's been working with them in terms of which ones are worth doing because of the higher payback in many of these. And so the air handler motors that Mike spoke to, the heating pump motors kind of thing, they are on our 26-27 ask, and hopefully in a week's time we'll know better. But it also obviously his conversations with these folks is also sort of leading them to even look at some of the AFG projects that we do in terms of replacing and getting bigger bang for our buck in terms of what projects that we prioritize to get more efficiencies, whether it's our DDCs, whether it's our air handler units or our heating pumps.
Great. Trustee Young, do you have a question?
I'd just like to give some further context to this. Way back, the board asked Prism, I believe was the name of the company, to do a full energy consult, and that was how we arrived at Mr. Monroe and Mr. Monroe working together to come up with some efficiencies. I think it's important to understand that there was a whole process that happened. And what I learned, I'll just speak for myself, what I learned from that report was there were many sort of small things that we could be doing that really impacted our energy consumption rather than some of the big flashy things that we might have been doing in the past. And I see Dr. Jory shaking his head because we had this discussion the other day. So I think it's important to understand the historical context and that we've been on this for quite a while.
Yeah, just to clarify, that was a BC Hydro initiative. So the last round with Prism, we did 5 buildings. We didn't do the entire district. So 5 were completed. There's potential for funding coming again for that. I just didn't want to commit and say that it's happening because it's not a guarantee at the moment. But there is potential grant program coming, hopefully in the near future, where we can do some more buildings. So we can clarify that maybe next month if those funds are available for us.
Great, thank you. Seeing no further hands, I want to thank you, Mr. Sawchuk, for coming and filling in for Phil. It was
Thank you.
appreciated. See no further hands, moving down the agenda. We're going to future topics. The future topics are lead in the water report will be coming forward, budget development, our annual budget, the Q3 financial summary, capital, major and minor, program adjustments, and False Bay and Qualicum Beach Elementary daycare updates. So those are the things that are going to be coming forward. Trustee Young.
I think
Sorry,
Austin
Trustee
first.
Austin. Trustee Austin.
Mine can wait till the very end if Elaine wants to speak to, because mine isn't about the future topic. So if Elaine wants to speak to future topics, that's fine, and then I'll go at the very end.
Yeah, I don't. I just wanted to give a little heads up. I'm halfway through the Qualicum Council meeting, which was like a 4-hour meeting. And their financial plan for 2026 includes the KSS traffic calming funds. So just to make you guys aware of that. And also bus garage site development. So more on that once I get through the other 3 hours of the meeting. And I'll send that out to trustees. But just to keep our eyes on those projects.
Great, thank you very much for doing that. Trustee Austin.
Thanks for reminding us of those things, Elaine, because that is another thing that I think this committee group can be keeping an eye on is the safety issues. And we've already had one meeting with interested partners, and we're having another one, I believe, March 4th. So that there may be recommendations or talk that comes back to this table. So thanks for reminding us of that, Elaine. I just wanted to ask, because I've been searching our website. I know I found it before and now I can't find it. It's the acronym list. It's a great list. I have found I like to have it in meetings with me, and especially in something like maintenance and ops, because so much is acronyms. And so if we can somehow, well, please send it to me, somebody, so I have it on my desktop, but somehow, again, get that on our website up front. And because I've searched our website for it, I type in acronyms, I can't find it, nothing comes up, but it's really helpful, especially during these committee meetings. That's
Great.
it, thanks.
Yeah, Dr. Jory.
Yeah, I'm going to, somebody put a lot of time into that, so I'm glad you're, keeping it alive. So I go to the parent page. I didn't click on let's see here. Parents. Oh yeah, no, it doesn't just pop right up. I found it really quickly last time I looked for it. So I haven't given it much thought here. So now I'm on the website and I can't find it. So that's exciting.
So can we move it to a more accessible place
Yeah, exactly.
after this meeting?
Well, apparently.
Ron, we have a question about when the survey
End of-
closes.
End of May, I think Ron said in this presentation.
End of May. Did
Yeah.
you get that, Tom?
Oh, resources for parents. It's on the resources for parents page. Right at the top of parent information. Resources for parents. Yeah, that's not necessarily the most intuitive place. There it is. And I
Did
don't
you
send
hear
a copy,
that,
sorry.
Rani? Hmm.
How
So
many
it's on
people are
parent
looking forward?
resources.
How many people are looking forward to the communications working group and all their great ideas?
All right. Seeing no further questions, Dr. Jory, can you just repeat again where that can be found?
Yeah, you go to our website, you click on the parent tab, and then you scroll down to resources for our parents. And
Okay.
it's right at the top of, it's about the middle of the page there. There's a right under the header, the middle of the page.
Excellent.
And I'm sorry, did we answer Tom's question about when the survey closes? Oh, you
Yeah.
did? Okay, sorry, I was
did.
looking for my acronym list.
But Tom, sooner the better.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Seeing no more hands, I'm going to let you know that our next meeting is Tuesday, April 21st at 10:30 via video conferencing. And we are through the agenda, so I'm going to adjourn our meeting. And everybody, you've got some time to start lunch early or go for a walk or whatever you're going to do with your extra time.